you for joining me on my podcast, Love You, Live You, with myself as host, Kathleen Heim. Today, my guest is Jennifer Leavenworth. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She was born into poverty at the youngest of 6 children. Her divorced mother had a 1-year nursing degree and struggled to support the family while working at a residential treatment facility for alcohol addiction. In striving to understand the dynamics of her family and her father's addictions and domestic violence, Jennifer began studying at the age of 9 years old the materials that her mom brought home regarding psychology of addiction and codependency. She continued in her study and while attending human potential seminars, all the while sharing the information she had gleaned with friends and her family. It's definitely in her. With encouragement from friends, Jennifer returned to college to complete her degrees in psychology while caring for her toddler and her preschooler. Jennifer, quite an accomplishment and so much to overcome. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely a mountain.
So tell me, who influenced you and who inspired you the most to move forward with your career in marriage and family counseling and life coaching and a degree in psychology, all the while you're raising your own little children?
It was a blend. My family both influenced and inspired me. They taught by example a lot. Almost everyone in my family became a healer. And they would encourage me also on my path of healing and recovery. But the ones who inspired me the most to have the courage to actually embark on the path of healing and recovery were my daughters.
Wow. So,
you know, people will say that you have to do it for yourself. Kathleen, if I had done it for myself, I would never have gotten on that path. I would have never embarked on that journey. I didn't have the courage to do it for myself.
Wow, that's really nice that you shared that. And I have to tell you, I agree. A lot of the time we aren't able as women, or we don't feel allowed or strong enough to do something for ourselves. And it's those children. Every morning and every night we look in those little faces and it somehow inspires us. Like you said, it makes us be strong, if not for ourselves, to be strong for them and to give them a different life.
When people say you can't do it for other people, what they're really saying is you can't do it for their reaction. Because a reaction is something you have no control over. So if you embark on a path of healing and recovery to get approval, somebody's in a bad mood, they're not going to give you their approval. They're going through a rough patch. They can forget completely the journey that you've taken on. So when they say you can't do it for someone else, you can't do it for their approval. So with regard to my children, I certainly wasn't expecting my toddler or my preschooler to pat me on the back or to say, what a great job you're doing, or we love you so much, this takes so much courage. I was doing it for them so that they could have a better life. And so that even if as teenagers they got mad and had attitude, no matter what happened, I would bring a light to the planet that would make life better for them.
You know, you talk about how your inspiration was your children, and your, what I call an intrinsic reward, was giving them a better life. So in actuality, you weren't really doing it for someone else. You're right. I talk in my book, The Rule of Nines, about, we need to set out to achieve whatever it is, be it a goal or a behavioral change, give up a habit, it has to have some type of intrinsic reward attached. So something that comes from the inside that can't be taken away from you, because like you said, approval from somebody else, that comes from the outside and it's transitory. So in all reality, you were receiving an intrinsic reward while you were moving yourself forward. It was your reason to achieve your goal, and your success was rewarded intrinsically by giving your children a better life. And I think that's amazing. And something else you talked about, which I would like to, if you don't mind, a little bit more about, you're one of six, the youngest of six children, and you're all healers, including your mom, who was a nurse who worked in addiction and recovery, right?
Yes.
So talk to us about your work as a healer. What do you do, and how are you able to help people?
Well, an important part of it is that I've been on the journey myself since I was a child. And so I get from an experiential level what it takes to be on that journey. And I'm still on that journey. And I would love to say that at some point we arrive and then we never have to grow anymore, or we never have to confront the ways in which there's a gap between where we are and what our ideal is, or what is healthy. And excuse me, once we achieve a certain level of healing, then what happens is we're able to see all the other blind spots that were not available to us before, that we couldn't see before. So when I'm working with people, I'm on the journey with them. And having been through so much, I can see where they're at and have compassion where they're at, while at the same time having compassion from where I'm at, and recognizing that we're all on this path together. It's not that I'm on a mountaintop and I'm preaching from a place of all-knowing. I'm right there with people.
That's really important. And I know you, I've worked with you as a life coach. Jennifer has been my life coach. And what I love about about Jennifer is that she's been there. And so often it's so easy, like she said, to sit on a mountaintop and look down on other people and not really have been on that journey and climbed, and she's still climbing you through that journey. And I think that's really important in helping understand where your clients are. And, you know, just wondering what is it you would like to say to women out there that have been in your shoes, a single mom, 2 young kids, trying to make a better life for them? You've grown up in a less than desirable, you know, family environment based on some of the addictions and domestic violence that you talked about it. And there's so many people out there that are in your shoes and they're afraid to talk about it, and they want to get there and they're not sure how. So if you could say to our listeners in those shoes, what would you say to them? What steps can they take in order to move forward?
Well, the first thing is that you are not alone. Domestic violence happens in 40% of households. 40% is a lot. So the illusion is that it's a rarity. And so that makes it easier for people to isolate and to be afraid to reach out. I use every modality of healing that's available to me, and they all work. And the more modalities of healing that you use, the better the result, the better and faster. So there's psychotherapy, there's life coaching, there's Reiki, there's acupuncture, acupressure, laying on of hands, Ayurveda, homeopathy, exercise, nutrition, and all of those things work. 12-step programs are very helpful. Codependents Anonymous, Adult Children of Alcoholics, Al-Anon, Narconon, and most of us who have been in these situations are prone to our own addictions, the codependency, shopping, pornography, there's so many different ways that people can self-medicate. It's not restricted to drugs and alcohol. And whatever it is that you're trying to overcome, there's a coach, there's a group, there's support for moving forward.
So why do you feel it's so hard for people to take that first step and say, I need help? How do we get people to feel it's okay to say, I need help?
Well, there's a myth in our culture that anything that's worthwhile is done on your own and by yourself. And it's an illusion. No one who does anything that's worthwhile does it on her own and by herself. So a lot of people are very young and don't remember John Kennedy, but he was on television and he said, I will take us to the moon. Well, that man didn't single-handedly take us to the moon. There were thousands of people doing all kinds of calculations, and even with like rulers back in the day, because I don't think computers were the thing. And it was a community of people that created that result. So the first step is to recognize that that's a myth. And it's not even a myth that's desirable, because if you do everything on your own and by yourself, where do you end up?
By alone, on your own, by yourself.
Yeah.
And I suppose some people are okay with that. You know, I have to say something kind of funny, a little bit unrelated to this, but related. You talked about going to the moon. I will take you to the moon, and how they used to do it without computers. My father was one of those men, a physicist and an aerospace engineer, who took the first men to the moon. And guess what? They used a slide ruler. You said a ruler? They used a slide ruler. For real. I saw it because they recently had a gathering of people that took you to the facility, and they used a slide ruler. Amazing. So you're right. But going back to what you said, unless you want to live on your own by yourself and stay that way, we have to reach a point in time where we feel it's okay. And society, I think as women, we need to really support each other and lift each other up, because a lot of the time, I feel like women are afraid to even talk to other women about what's going on. If they are a victim of domestic violence, or they may be in a relationship with somebody who has struggles with addictions, be it alcohol, drugs, pornography, gambling, or shopping. And you know, I think they feel embarrassed. And I would love to think of ways that we can empower women and make it so it's not so unacceptable, even though it's not. We have that illusion that it is. So how do we support our friends? How do we support our coworkers? If we see somebody, they're not yet ready to get help, but we see them in a situation that is maybe even dangerous for them, what can we do to help those women feel, I guess, more comfortable about, I don't want to say coming out, but admitting that there's a problem and looking for help?
There's a book called Nonviolent Communication. And then there's another book called How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen, and How to Listen So Your Kids Will Talk. In both of those books, they talk about the power and the value of reflective listening. So essentially what you listen for is the commitment, the ideal, the vision, the conviction behind what's being said, and then you speak that back to the person. Once people recognize the conviction behind what they're saying, their ideal, their vision, then they can take action on it. Sometimes people don't even realize that there is an ideal or a vision behind their complaint. So when we listen for it and then reflect it back to them, that opens things up for them so that they can actually be in action about their own conviction.
So can you give an example of that?
Well, tell me, what's any pet peeve you're willing to disclose on your podcast?
Pet peeve or
Sure.
habit?
Annoys you.
I'm not so easily annoyed, so I got to think about that for a minute. I don't like gossip. I guess, is that annoying? I really don't like when people start talking about other people. It makes me extremely uncomfortable. So that's a pet peeve of mine.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so what I heard you say is that you have a pet peeve that people gossip and it makes you feel really uncomfortable. What I'm hearing you say is that you have an ideal or a vision or a conviction that people build each other up, and that part of building each other up involves direct communication. So rather than gossiping, they would go to the person directly that they're gossiping about and just communicate to them directly in a nonviolent fashion how they're feeling and what their request is in a respectful way, and focus on coming up with a solution rather than focusing on generating discord.
Right.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. And a lot of time that is what we do. We want, so you're talking about moving forward, moving the conversation in a forward moving direction, a direction towards change versus, staying stagnant in that same place over and over.
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So now that you recognize what your conviction is behind your complaint, your pet peeve, what are some possible actions you could take when people gossip?
And this is great, Jennifer, for you to share with people, because I think you sharing this really helps people maybe do a little tweak in their thinking and the way they look at things. And like you said, what is your action? And I'm bringing up my book, The Rule of Nines, because I speak to this a lot in the book. So like, take action. Once you've decided what it is you want, why you want it, how are you going to get there, and what actions are you willing to take? What steps are you willing to take? And it's essential in all areas of healthcare, the mental health and physical health, working, with care, training care managers, working with patients, trying to evoke change from the members or from the patients in order for them to make those changes to better their life. So what's their carrot dangling, so to speak, right? And what's in it for them intrinsically, I think, and what are they willing to do to take those steps forward? And I'm wondering, can you tell us about a time, because I am sure this is one hell of a journey and you're only giving us a little, and we're willing to hear as much as you're willing to give us, but challenges, you had to have challenges, times where you felt like you were failing. Do any of those come to mind? And if something comes to mind, how were you able to overcome that challenge and turn it into a success?
Okay. I can think of one time in particular that was very challenging, and that was when my daughter came to me. Well, actually, I came to her and I said, "What do you want for your 12th birthday?" Kathleen, she said, "All I want is for you to quit smoking. I don't want you to die." And I thought, why couldn't she want a pair of Guess jeans, a cell phone? No, she wants something that's going to involve me growing and healing and sacrificing something that I love. Because I did. I loved smoking. I threw a tantrum. I went in my bedroom and I slammed the door so hard that pictures fell off the walls. And I knew about the 12 steps, and I knew that one of the steps was asking your higher power to remove your character defects. Well, this was a character defect I was particularly attached to, and I'd never asked for it to be removed because I didn't want it to be. So I had this very respectful conversation with my higher power, and I said, "I love smoking. I have no intention of quitting. It makes me feel good when things are really crappy. So if you want me to quit smoking, you just make me." And I was defiant. And I lit up a cigarette And I took a long drag, and I exhaled, and the room started spinning.
Wow.
I got so nauseous. And I had to put the cigarette out and lie down for 2 hours until the room stopped spinning and I could get up and make dinner. And I thought, that doesn't mean anything. That was a one-time thing. That was a fluke. And the next day, I did the same thing. I lit up a cigarette. I took a long drag. I inhaled it. And then I exhaled it. And then the room started spinning.
Wow.
I felt so ill.
Wow. Careful what you asked for.
Well, I did that one more time, and I had the exact same result. And I have to tell you, I never had a craving. I didn't have to chew gum. I didn't have to use a patch. I didn't have to go to a 12-step group. I had no craving, and I have not smoked since. Now, back to the not needing approval. It was probably a month before my 12-year-old noticed that I had quit smoking. And the conversation went something like this. Oh, Mom, I haven't seen you smoke. Did you quit smoking? Yeah, I did. Oh, cool. If I had been dependent on her approval for that, I could have gone backwards and spun out. But it had nothing to do with her approval. It had nothing to do with her reaction or how she behaved towards me. And she was entering adolescence. So I really couldn't depend on her approval or her attitude or anything as a reward for that. And the other thing I'd like to say as a disclaimer is that having a cure from your higher power only happens 2% of the time. The rest of the time, it takes work on our part, doing 12-step, getting therapy, exercising, getting good nutrition, all that kind of thing.
All encompassing good things. So another question that I have for you. And it's in regards to women. How are you, as a life coach, as a therapist, as a healer, how are you doing your part to lift other women up?
Well, I think women are not given permission to be anything. I mean, they're not given permission to be in their male side. They're not given permission to be in their female side. They're not given permission to age. They're not given permission to stay young looking. They're not given permission to be rich and successful or to lead. And I think it's important to give women permission to be authentic and to remember that we all have male and female sides within us, that balance of yin and yang energy, and that it's okay to express a feminine side. It's okay to express a masculine side. It's okay to age. It's okay to stay the same age. And that it's possible to surround ourselves with a network of support that will allow us to be authentic and actually encourage authenticity.
I love that. And you are so right. And it's so sad, but so true. We aren't allowed to be any of those things. There's a mold that we belong to, but we don't know what that mold is. And it changes. And what you said about not being able to express our masculine side, not being able to express our feminine side. If you're masculine, you're too masculine. They would prefer someone, maybe even if you're talking relationally, a man might want a woman who's more feminine, but you're too feminine. You're not strong enough. So you're supposed to be strong and be weak and need them at the same time. It gets very confusing. And also the aging thing, we live in this era of plastic surgery, right? Instant results. And it's so hard to keep up with. And there's women getting, what do they call them? Mommy makeovers, and, everything's lift and tucked and Botox and lips and you name it. And it makes it really hard for those women who say, what, I really don't want to do that. And I think it's us that are mothers. Not all of us, but I'm going to speak for myself. I'm a mother. I have a 21-year-old daughter. I don't want to do those things because I don't want her to feel her worth is based on looking a certain way. So I refuse. And so I'm aging as gracefully as I possibly can without all that. So it is important. And that's what I think that I'm trying to create here with women such as yourself, amazing women that are really, really working hard, committing their life, their life's work, their passion, time, everything in order to help people like those women you talked about to be okay with who they are and to create, like you said, a posse, basically a family, a village. It takes a village of women lifting each other up and accepting and making maybe even a movement, maybe in a different direction than where we've been going for a while. I think that would be beautiful. And I said this before in one of my shows, and I say it all the time. If we were blind, if everyone were blind, what choices would we make? What choices would we make in our homes, our friendships, our relationships? And trying to erase that visual aspect out of everything that creates such disillusion, I think, to what's really behind what we're looking at. So another thing I want to ask you, it's just a random question. So I hope you don't mind. Do you mind if I ask you a random question?
I don't mind if you ask. You can ask any question.
Never will I ever.
A never will I ever. Gosh, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I would say that about.
Well, you might never ever say never. Never will I ever say never. I don't know. So that's a tough one. I know, I put you on the spot. I apologize.
No, you can put me on the spot. It's just that I don't have an answer. So, but you know what? There are a lot of things I don't have answers for. So
that's okay. So what are you doing to love you, live you, Jennifer? What are you doing for yourself?
I recently embarked on this thing called, you might have heard of it, it's called exercise.
What?
I used to go on little 30-minute walks around the neighborhood, and I thought, well, okay, I'm exercising. And walking is great, and walking in nature is great. So it's not that I want to diminish that. And at the same time, going to a location and having a coach who is rigorous and being surrounded by a community of people who are supportive makes a huge difference when you have a goal that in the past has been unattainable or difficult. You know, that whole on your own, by yourself thing. And what I've noticed is that my mood has been so much better. And on top of that, my immune system has been stronger. I recently had a bout of bronchitis, and usually it would take me months to recover from bronchitis. And I recovered in like 2.5 weeks. And it was because I'd been exercising, but not just those little jaunts around the neighborhood. So that's the newest thing. I'm always going back to therapy when I need it, which happens periodically. And I have a homeopath. I take Ayurvedic herbs. I eat organic, unprocessed foods. You know, I do my best to practice what I preach and to really be on the path with my clients and to live that example, not just for my clients, but for my kids. I want to be that for them. And the other thing I want to say is that personally, I don't have anything against plastic surgery. I think that everyone's expression what their authentic expression looks like will be distinct from one person to the other. And it's interesting because we might allow someone who's transgender to get plastic surgery to feel like they're authentic, or we might give permission to someone who's had bariatric weight loss surgery and lost 200 pounds to get plastic surgery so that they can feel authentic. But what if we gave everyone permission to be exactly who they are and exactly who they aren't, as long as they're not hurting anyone else? Including, if people want to age naturally, that we could support that too. That we could support each other.
Well, you know what? Now I feel bad. But I think I missed the mark on my point, but thank you for sharing that. And I love that you're doing all that for yourself. I know it's been great for you, and I'm really happy for you. I guess it's not so much the plastic surgery. I think I spoke a little bit harsh. It's about the society's in general unacceptance of the aging of women.
Yes.
And that's what I'm talking about. It seems like if you do it for yourself, that's different. But if you're doing it because you feel you have to keep up with the Joneses, or, those people that are, let's say, look younger than you do at your age because you haven't done it. So I think it's the pressure that I'm talking about, that we tend to be compared, and that we're not accepted to have the gray hair. I'm guilty. I cover my grays. I don't like, but I don't like it for me. So you're right. You do it for yourself. So why is that different than plastic surgery? I guess, again, being a woman that's my age and having a daughter of her age, it's just very important for me to teach her, the one that I was born to me, that I'm to teach, that it's okay to be comfortable in your own skin. If you want to make a change, I guess that's different, but because you want it, not because you're not comfortable in your skin, trying to make yourself different than who you are, if that makes sense.
Going back to not doing it for someone else's approval or for someone else's reaction.
Exactly. 100%.
But as an authentic expression of itself.
100%. If you want the double D's because you like them, go for it. But if you're doing it because somebody else wants it for you, or you think it might get you more attention, then that's a different reason. But again, that's a lot of deep stuff, deep work that people have to do. And that's why we have life coaches, therapists, and everything else, right? To help us through those times. So, Jennifer, how do people get in touch with you?
They can find me on my website, diversityofsolutions.com, or they can just give me a call, 661-952-8276. You actually have to leave a message, though, because otherwise I'll think you're a telemarketer who hung up on me. So.
Okay, great. So we know how to get a hold of Jennifer, but I have one last question for those that are listening. What is the difference between therapy and life coaching? Why would somebody choose one over the other?
That's a good question. Therapy is for people who, it doesn't have to be just for people who are struggling with a dire circumstance that induces depression or anxiety or a mental illness. It can also be for people who are looking for direction in their lives, who have questions about what's next for them. But life coaching is entirely for people who are healthy and successful already. Life coaching does not address mental illness for the most part. Unless your life coach happens to be a licensed marriage and family therapist or a licensed psychologist, then that person will be equipped to guide you in the right direction in the course of life coaching. But life coaching is for people who are already healthy, whereas therapy is designed to be for people who are struggling with a mental health issue even if that mental health issue is as a result of a really painful circumstance.
And that's something that's unique about you. I think that you do both. So you can offer that life coaching with that. You have all that education, and you're, again, a licensed family therapist. So you're able to add that insight and maybe give them a little bit of that, on the run, basically, because life coaching, you can get a phone call. You don't have to sit down in the office. It's at your convenience on your lunch break, which is kind of nice for sure. I have to tell you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. So I actually, I met Jennifer. She was my life coach, and I'm going to tell you, she was fabulous. And what I liked about it is that on my lunch break at work, on my busy schedule, I was able to schedule an appointment. And what she was able to do for me was help me through those situations, when you don't want to go to your friends because you don't want people's, a lot of people aren't healthy, and they're going to give you unhealthy, maybe, I don't want to say solutions, but ideas about how you should go about things in life. And Jennifer gives that real balance and helps you come up with your own solutions to your situations in life. So I think that's something great about the life coaching aspect of what you do. And you were about to say something.
I was, and that completely escaped me. So
my next question is, there's anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to share with the listeners?
Let me think about that. There's a solution for anything that you have on your plate. Anything that you don't know the answer to, anything that seems impossible or intractable, there is a solution. You may not have found it yet, but it's there. And no matter what your particular notion of a higher power is, whether it's the force or the universe or the energy that connects and binds us, a la Yoda, whatever your notion of that higher power is, you can connect up with that and begin to get impulses that will guide you to the solutions. And the solutions can be in the form of a book, a coach, a 12-step group, a therapist, a friend who's been through it before. There are so many different modalities of healing and so many different resources. And there's YouTube University. If anyone is having difficulties that are financial, there are so many ways to reach out to get solutions that don't cost anything.
That's great. And they could reach out to you if they're in need of something along those lines, and you could provide that direction for them, our listeners.
It's certainly worked out so far.
Okay, great. Well, Jennifer, I really appreciate you being on the show. Again, Jennifer Leavenworth, licensed marriage and family therapist, life coach, amazing human being, again, dedicating her life to help others live a better life. So thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
I feel so honored. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you, Jennifer.